Good morning, everybody. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show for UFC Vegas 67, where we have Sean Strickland taking on Nasruddin Imavov at 205 pounds. We saw Imavov come in a little bit lighter than the bout weight agreement. 11 fights, 7 of which are expected to end inside the distance. First card of 2023. Want to get off on the right foot here, pick our spots. Third-party tracked at betmma.tips. Show brought to you by MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI. We are continuing this journey up well over 100 units now. Last year, up 33 units, picking our spots. Let's kick things off, my friends, with the first bout of the evening where we have a flyweight matchup. By the way, my third-party tracked record for flyweights, 81% cash rate dating back to 2017. And I have not made a play on this fight. We have Charles Johnson taking on Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick coming back from a 2-year layoff where he said that he was retired, and he might be coming back for money, might not be. We've heard in interviews that this is a guy who has been in the gym since July. He's known about this fight. Charles Johnson, not a world beater by any means, somebody who's been active, spent time on the LFA scene, somebody who not much to speak about in the striking department, although he does have a few TKO victories. I'll give him his gas tank. He's got a solid gas tank, doesn't give up on himself, has a solid chin, has never been submitted. And Jimmy Flick, you look up and down his resume, and Jimmy Flick has, I believe, 14 wins via submission headed into this fight. He also has a suspect chin. If I am going to play a fight, likely the under 2.5. Even the fight doesn't go the distance for a flyweight fight is juiced here. Flick, he's like a little pit bull out there, somebody who just will not quit, will not go away until he's knocked unconscious. And I see Flick either walking away with the submission victory here. I do think that he is live for a submission, or Charles Johnson knocks him out. The other thing is, does Johnson want to end up in a bear trap here? And that could be a real possibility if Flick's able to lock something up. We saw on Flick's Contender Series matchup how he was able to chain submission after submission after submission, and he won't give up on himself until he's out of there. So I'll be picking Charles Johnson, but this is a bit of a dangerous fight. I understand why folks may have gotten in on Charles Johnson much, much earlier at one offshore book where the odds, they moved rather quickly. I'm not going anywhere near Charles Johnson at minus 365. No way. In this spot, though, fight doesn't go the distance, is almost unplayable in the minus 250s, etc. Under 2.5, minus 190. That might be a play, but I have no plays on this fight, and I'll be picking Charles Johnson. Next up, where we have Daniel Argueta taking on Nick Aguirre. Nick Aguirre coming in as a plus 365 underdog, somebody who's taking this fight on very short notice against Dan Argueta, who has been, it's interesting. He's very stout. He's someone who fights out of Jackson Wink, somebody who has a solid gas tank. We saw against Damon Jackson, he was able to have a few moments in that fight against Damon Jackson. Argueta has a motor on him, and he looks like he may be tough to submit out there, the way he's able to continue moving, never stops moving. Aguirre, lanky frame, a fighter who is going to try to capitalize on a catastrophic error on the part of Daniel Argueta. I believe that is what is Aguirre's path to victory, which is very slim here. And I understand why Argueta is minus 515 betting favorite. This fight, you look at the fight doesn't go the distance line, sits at minus 225. I think that there is a legitimate shot that Argueta ends up winning this via finish. No play on this fight, but I am going to be picking Daniel Argueta to win. Next up, we've got another flyweight matchup here. First bout on the card was a flyweight fight. And now we have Alan Nascimento taking on Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez probably has the least imposing physique on the entire UFC roster. And he's taking on a Nascimento who is a massive flyweight, somebody who is coming off the win over Hadley, somebody who is a submission threat, but not the brightest star when it comes to in-fight decision-making, can make some errors out there. And Carlos Hernandez is a grinder. He's somebody who will fight for your money, who hangs in fights. And in this bout, Nascimento, I believe the size of Nascimento is going to be a threat here. I believe that I'd like to see Nascimento compete at bantamweight. I know he has this magical method of weight cutting that perhaps Sijara Eubanks could adopt at some point. Maybe they should put their heads together and see what's going on here. By the way, that the loss of that Cachoeira Eubanks fight, concerning. Where does Sijara Eubanks go from here? Negligence on the part of Sijara Eubanks, as far as I'm concerned. In this spot, though, Nascimento is going to be the pick. I think he has too many tricks up his sleeve, especially from a jiu-jitsu standpoint. Look for him to capitalize on a situation where he is you could see Carlos Hernandez having some success. Perhaps he'll be in the guard, and then Nascimento locks up a triangle submission. I could see that playing out here. Next up. Wow. This is one of my favorite fights of the card. We've got Matthias Mendonca taking on Mendonca-Basharat at 135 pounds. Mendonca plus 255 underdog, and Basharat minus 335 at the betting window. Basharat, coming off of the win over Gravely, is a fighter who will fight hard for your money. That's, by the way, Mendonca is going to fight for your money, but he is all about chaos. Watch his fights on the come up here. Also, I believe the facial tattoo may be a giveaway that he is a little reckless, if we're being honest with ourselves. The guard passing ability of Mendonca is a threat, but Basharat is a very composed fighter, fighting out of Extreme Couture. By the way, we have a few fighters who are fighting in their backyard here. Basharat, I like his range striking. The wrestling defensive tendencies are on point. His get-up game is on point. And it's going to take a chaotic effort from Mendonca to capitalize here. He's going to have to catch Basharat. And Basharat has a few paths to victory here. I believe Matias is going to end up gassing himself out in this spot. I know he's been to a decision 3 separate times, but Basharat has the more composed, more accurate striking. Watch the Mendonca, the Mendonca Contender Series matchup, and he's a wild man out there. So I don't see this one going the distance. I'm going to be picking Basharat to win inside the distance, and I have a couple of units on Basharat at minus 315. I also have a unit on Basharat. Mendonca fight doesn't go the distance at minus 135. So give me Basharat to win in that spot. Next up, oh boy, we have Matias Rebecki. I made sure to watch weigh-ins multiple times and also a bunch of fights back to make sure I got the pronunciation correct there. Rebecki, Polish fighter with one loss on his record by TKO back in 2014. A fighter who is built like a wrecking ball. Somebody who has a lot of energy, balled up and ready to explode on Nick Fiore. Nick Fiore coming in as a plus 480 underdog, someone who is coming out of the New England cartel and coming in here trying to cause problems for the Polish fighter. Now, the odds are very, very wide here, minus 780 for Rebecki. And you look at fight doesn't go the distance, minus 360. That is a wide line as well. Bright lights, big city, capitalizing on these moments could be challenging when all is said and done. Fiore has nothing to lose here except maybe his consciousness, which could potentially happen. And it's going to take an error on Rebecki's part. He might gas himself out here early. We've seen that happen many times before with UFC debutants. I'll be picking Rebecki to win inside the distance, but I'm not going anywhere near a minus 780 line on a regional fighter. Granted, what I've seen on the tape, the guy is able to use his physicality to accomplish the goal most nights. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. Good morning, Martin. Great to see you. Excellent. Worldwide, back in the house. 5 a.m. on the West Coast. Excellent. Look at this. Rogues on flick. Hey, one of the reasons I'm not touching this fight is because there is a legitimate submission threat. Excellent. Good morning, Danilo. Great to see you. Go get what's yours. That's right. Aguirre hasn't faced an opponent with a win, with a winning record. Now, I believe one of the fighters he took on has almost 90 career losses, and then he fought him back-to-back to open his career. Ridiculous. Evan, wow, Frank Dukes is in the house. Excellent. Donnie, welcome aboard, my friend. Let's continue this journey. So the pick is going to be Rebecki inside the distance, but can't trust that regional fighter in this matchup. I'm not going to be laying the massive juice. Now, check out this fight. Middleweight matchup. Abdul Razak Alhassan taking on Claudio Ribeiro. Claudio Ribeiro coming in as at minus 115. Basically, you've got to pick him across the board. A little vig there. Ribeiro is a reckless fighter, a fighter who's willing to empty his gas tank, a fighter with long limbs who is dangerous from just about any angle. And he's taking on an Abdul Razak Alhassan at middleweight, who's now in his late 30s, a fighter who is going to try to be first to the target, a fighter who is going to also potentially completely empty his gas tank. Now, we saw in the Buckley fight, I believe that was an anomaly in some respects because you had Buckley trying to utilize his wrestling at points during the fight. And in this matchup, this is a very chaotic fight, my friends. I am concerned for both parties here. I believe somebody is going to get knocked out, and I am slightly leaning to Abdul Razak Alhassan. I believe he has he's the more experienced fighter here with a more proven track record, but also seems to be a bit more accurate on the feet. And that may be what it comes down to. Ribeiro's recklessness could potentially create an opening for Alhassan. And that's how I see this fight ending, by brutal knockout. So give me Abdul Razak Alhassan. Look at this. Mr. X pointing out goes the distance at plus 500. Now, I will say this is massively juiced from a fight doesn't go the distance standpoint. You're looking at minus 625 as the best price across the board. Whew. I am not going to be laying that kind of juice here. By the way, you want to talk juice. You want to talk the Tropicana. Get your fresh OJ out. Look at Umar Nurmagomedov, minus 930. That begs the question, is the juice worth the squeeze here against Barcelos? Barcelos coming in as a plus 530 underdog. Barcelos, one of my favorite fighters. People call him Jose Aldo Light. I would have, oh man, I wanted to see, I'm thinking about the things I would do to make the fight between between Raoni Barcelos and Jose Aldo. I wish we would have seen that fight. That would have been a fantastic fight, especially towards the end of Jose Aldo's career. But that isn't what we have at this juncture. We've got Barcelos taking on Nurmagomedov. Now, Nurmagomedov is he likes to use that front leg when he's kicking. It's like a whip out there. It's almost like the Zohan throwing it out. You're not expecting it to land, and there it is, right in your face. Nurmagomedov also a ground game that is suffocating at times. Granted, he doesn't necessarily lock up submissions every time out. We saw against Nate Menace was content to ride out positions and walk away with a victory after 15 minutes. Barcelos is going to have to try to make these opportunities count. I have no play on this fight. The juice is just way, way, way too wide here. I think it is disrespectful to Barcelos to line him as this much of an underdog, but I'll be watching from a distance, and I'll be cheering on folks who are on the Barcelos side, because I believe that he's much more live than the odds suggest. But I do believe inevitably Umar Nurmagomedov is going to do enough to stifle Barcelos' game. And that's really what it comes down to. He overwhelms Nurmagomedov. He's just one step ahead of most opponents. And I believe that'll be the case here. Rising star, but I'm not touching this fight from a betting perspective. I understand the value boys are on Barcelos, and he's a dangerous fighter. Dangerous fighter. So give me Umar Nurmagomedov, but not at this number. I see people potentially trying to play Nurmagomedov by submission or by decision. You could catch yourself in a trap doing that also, trying to be too cute. But I think this is best to be a pass at this stage right now. Give me Nurmagomedov, though. Now, fascinating bout where we have Ketlen Vieira taking on Rebecki-Pennington. This fight is interesting because we've seen Vieira take losses to a few fighters throughout her career. The Aldana loss by KO is concerning. Also, the way Vieira can falter down the stretch. Seen that many times in her career. Comes out sharp early, and I think that that's what's going to happen here against Rebecki-Pennington. Vieira is the better striker. She has a dangerous submission game also. She has the ability to knock out opponents when she commits to her punches. But when she commits to her punches, watch the way defensively she can be irresponsible at times. And then she also can run out of gas and gets paralyzed by, I believe, paralysis by analysis is what happens to her. Pennington, she's a dog. She's a junkyard dog. She's somebody who will fight for your money. She's going to come out and give it her best effort. But technically, she's not as sound as Ketlen Vieira is. But she's a grinder, and she loves to have clinch battles against the cage. We saw against Holly Holm and others. She gets stuck against the cage. By the way, we cashed on Ketlen Vieira last time out against Holly Holm. Holly Holm's getting up there in age. She's, I believe, going to be 40. I believe she'll be 40 soon. In this spot, though, I'm leaning to Ketlen Vieira. I've seen Ketlen Vieira drop the ball a few times, and also her gas tank is still suspect to me. I think it was against Kunitskaya. We saw her maintain top position she was in a dominant position for, I believe, 4 minutes in the third round, and then got split open by an elbow and ended up losing that. That was a bad look. She should have won that fight and could have won that fight. Hopefully she's learned from that experience. Give me Ketlen Vieira, though. I'm not making a play on this bout. I believe there are other spots in this card where you have legitimate fighters who are going to go out and fight for your money. And that's something that we really need to focus on in 2023. I've mentioned this before. Have you broken any of your New Year's resolutions when it comes to MMA betting? And what were those New Year's resolutions? I see a lot of people saying avoid betting low-level women's mixed martial arts. I agree with that to a certain degree. Also, avoiding fighters with bad gas tanks, avoiding fighters who make catastrophic errors. Look for fighters who are ever improving, who are in solid camps, and who are young and have room to improve. Ketlen Vieira, she meets a couple of those criteria, but I'm not touching that fight. Give me Vieira to win. Now, let's see. Evan also leans Ketlen. Yeah, okay. Marcus, you like Vieira in this spot over an older and smaller Pennington. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, avoid laying massive chalk on women's mixed martial arts. By the way, before we get back to the Puna-Kopylov fight, I just want to mention the Sijara Eubanks Cachoeira fight. You had a 37-year-old Sijara Eubanks dropping down to 125 pounds. We knew the fight was at 125 pounds. We knew she had ample time to try to make the weight. And somehow, some way, I know she's fighting Cachoeira, but folks went to the window and bet her all the way up to minus 265 ish. That is obscene to me, for that to happen, and concerning to put your money in a situation where, if the fighter can't make it to the scales, they cannot compete. So disturbing to see Eubanks bet that big, bet that up, bet that high. That fight is canceled. Now that might be the last that we see of Sijara Eubanks. It's interesting because you had Aspen Ladd, who also struggled on the scale. She's no longer with the promotion, and perhaps we will see a Sijara Eubanks Aspen Ladd rematch in another organization at some point. Thank goodness folks who were on the Eubanks side got bailed out by her not making weight, because if she was forced to cut those extra few pounds, it's almost inevitable that that she was going to completely gas out and lose at the end of the road, if she wasn't able to lock up a submission or TKO Cachoeira early. There are no certainties in this game, but I believe that the Eubanks backers dodged a bullet. Let's get back to a fight here, a middleweight matchup between Puna Soriano and Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov coming in as the plus 125 underdog. I see along the Twitter timeline that Kopylov is a live underdog here, somebody who is, I believe that people are unaware that Kopylov is actually the older fighter here. He's also a fighter who is making his first trip to the United States to compete. That needs to be mentioned. So you have a fighter who's a year older, who is competing in the United States for the first time, a fighter who has struggled with the ground game. For goodness sakes, Carl Roberson was able to submit Roman Kopylov. Now, Puna Soriano, 30 years of age. Also, we saw in the Contender Series, completely gassed himself out going for it. Somebody who has a chin, who was outwitted by Nick Maximov. If you watch the fight between Soriano and Maximov, I know folks don't think highly of Maximov at this stage in his career, but competitive fight to a certain degree. You see the 11 takedowns for Maximov, and you completely write that performance off. But watch it again. Soriano had his moments there. Dalcha Lugabula took that fight and lost the first round. Yes. The power threat is real for Soriano. The wrestling threat is real. He doesn't seem to put punches in bunches together. Kopylov does that. Kopylov, crisp striker, somebody who will fight for your money when he's upright. When he's on the mat, he is a fish out of water. Now, he has a, I believe, Masters of Sport in hand-to-hand combat, a Russian fighter on the Fight Nights global scene, somebody who is going to, you look at his nose. The guy's taken a tremendous amount of punishment. Soriano here, I'll be picking Puna Soriano. I think that he has the much higher ceiling. He's fighting out of Extreme Couture. He has shown improvements from fight to fight. And inside of the smaller octagon is going to have his moments. And it may just take one. So I have played Puna Soriano by finish only for 1 unit at minus 175. So that means that if it hits the scorecards, there's no action. Kopylov, when he's in a flow state, when he gets moving and grooving, he looks solid, throwing very straight punches, crisp striking. But I don't like his tendencies defensively, and in the smaller octagon, he's probably going to end up taking one here that puts his lights out. The other thing is for Soriano, he has the ability to win this fight a few different ways, and I do trust Soriano's chin. So that was one play. The other play, I did make a 1-unit play on Puna, straight money line at -155. Thanks, Evan. Yes. So Kopylov competing inside of the United States for the first time. So you're talking a trip thousands of miles across the world, inside of the smaller octagon for the first time. Interesting stuff. Look at where he's competed. France, Russia, even out of Abu Dhabi, Russia, but never in the United States. Next up, co-main event of the evening, where we have Dan Ige taking on Damon Jackson. By the way, the Soriano-Kopylov bout, I did a pretty extensive write-up for MMA Oddsbreaker. If you want, you can check out the website there. It's a free article. This fight, Dan Ige, Damon Jackson, 145 pounds. Damon Jackson coming in as +100. Dan Ige -130 at the betting window. I got in on Dan Ige at -108. This fight, yes, could play out relatively close due to Damon Jackson's leech-like tendencies. Damon Jackson is a grappler by trade, coming off of a TKO victory versus Pat Sabatini, someone who, in Damon Jackson, has the ability to push a pace early and often and is a submission threat. Look up and down his resume. The guy is a finisher, but it comes at a cost. And Dan Ige can crack. He's never been submitted. Same with Charles Johnson, first fight of the card, hadn't been submitted. But I'll say this. I put out a tweet yesterday that it was a poll. Who is more likely to be submitted, Dan Ige or Charles Johnson? I believe Charles Johnson's more likely to be submitted. And Dan Ige, tough as nails. We backed him against Barbosa. He hung in there against a multitude of high-profile, high-caliber opponents. You look at the Damon Jackson run that he's on. This is a guy who's been finished 3 separate times. The Topuria one is one where he got eaten alive, taking shots to the body. LFA fight where he was knocked out with the right hand, I believe in the 3rd round, where it was a situation where Jackson gassed himself out. And I think that Ige is live in this fight and has the ability to win via knockout early. Also has the ability to really turn the tide late in this fight if it ends up going that route. His back's against the wall. Recency bias is in full effect. I'll be picking Dan Ige to win, and you could play him straight. You could also take a look at the scorecards, no action or finish only prop that's out there. If you are fearful that Damon Jackson could win a decision, there's a saying: "Scared money don't make money." Take that into consideration. You do have to take some risks, but I advocate for a measured approach every time out. Limit your exposure. Remember, 1% of the bankroll is 1 unit. So when you see folks out here risking 20 plus units per event, that is a dangerous proposition. You never want to put yourself in a situation where you're losing double-digit units on a card. By the way, also, check out my article at MMA Oddsbreaker about recency bias and how this specific fight sheds a light on that. You have Damon Jackson riding a 4-fight winning streak versus low-level competition, and then you have Dan Ige fighting some of the best fighters at 145 pounds. And granted, he was annihilated by Movsar Evloev, but he's hung in there against most other opponents. And I see the narrative. I understand why folks could be backing Damon Jackson here. He has a grappling edge. He can act like a leech and suffocate Dan Ige on the mat for as long as he can. But that's going to come at a cost, and that will likely tax the gas tank of Damon Jackson, which leads me to believe that Dan Ige ends up winning this fight. This is very close to a coin flip when in regards to the betting window, but I believe the side here is Dan Ige, and I'll be picking Dan Ige to win. Hopefully that was a thorough enough breakdown for you. I realize this is the Fight Morning quick card breakdown show, but we went a little bit deeper there. Let's see. Let's see. Martin says there's massive value on over the 2.5 in the main event. Okay. What's your early lean? Oh, yeah. I lean Shavkat there. Dan Ige season Evan. I believe he will walk away with the victory, but there are no certainties in this game. Now, main event of the evening, where we have Nasruddin Imavov taking on Sean Strickland at 205 pounds, mind you. The notes are gone. We have Sean Strickland coming in at 204 pounds. Now, Nasruddin Imavov coming in at 194 pounds. Imavov chiseled, was ready for a fight, a 5-round fight with Kelvin Gastelum, and in steps a dramatically different opponent in Sean Strickland. You go from southpaw to orthodox. By the way, I forgot to mention this in the Soriano-Kopylov matchup. You're looking at southpaws fighting each other in that matchup, so consider that. Imavov taking on Sean Strickland here. Close fight. Very close fight. At the betting window, there are a lot of variables to consider here. You've got Strickland coming in on very short notice, a month out from taking substantial damage at the hands and the feet, the kicking game of Jared Cannonier. He's coming in here, and I expect Imavov to be very, very sharp early, and Strickland's got to be ready for that. Strickland's got to be ready to turn up quick, because Imavov is going to come out of the gates likely on fire, and Strickland is going to have to hang in there for at least 2 rounds or so to turn the tide here, in my eyes. I don't see Strickland finishing Imavov in a round or even 2 rounds. This fight is going to have to get extended for him to have success. And this is a case where I don't have any bets on this fight yet, and I've been eyeing up how to approach this, and there are just so many variables to consider in this spot. But I'm going to be picking Imavov here. I think that he has the ability to get out early, get up ahead early, and cause Sean Strickland fits here. Both of these fighters, although there's a 10-pound weight difference, and it looks like Strickland was a little doughy on the scales, these fighters match up fairly well from a size perspective. And the grappling game of Strickland, we don't see it come into play that often. I mean, he toyed with Brendan Allen on the mat. A lot of people don't bring that fight up, and if Imavov hits the mat late, I'm talking after the 2nd or 3rd rounds, Strickland could tap into that game if Imavov gets pressed up against the fence backwards and he starts gassing out. But I'll be picking Imavov here. I think that Strickland is live the longer this fight goes, though. If it gets past the 3rd round, I know he's coming off of a month layoff here, but Strickland is live late. So give me Imavov to win this fight. That's 11 fights in the books, my friends. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today as we have broken down all 11 bouts on the card. Remember to go get what's yours. Have a phenomenal Saturday. Let's do this. Cheers. So check out my work at MMA Oddsbreaker, betmma.tips. Everybody, the plays for this card, for the first card of the year, are on the house. We're although I've had 5 consecutive winning years and am up over 100 units, I'm putting out all of the content for free this week, and every weekend we've been having the Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show for all the cards of free content there, and it's a pleasure to engage on Twitter and other formats every time out all week long, talking fights. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you. So have a great rest of your day. Take care.